Welcome back to Beyond the Game podcast. I'm your host, Terry.
I'm your host, Trey.
We're going to talk a little college football this morning. Week zero. First game of the season is in about 3.5 hours. We've got Kansas State and Iowa State playing over in old Dublin, Ireland.
Yeah, that's going to be a good game there. Kansas State returning to QB. Kansas State is favored in that game, -3.5. I'm going to be on Kansas State to win big today.
I think Kansas State probably will walk out a winner in that game just with their offense coming back and their defense. Iowa State's got a good football team. They've got a great running back, Abu Sama the third. Last year when they played Kansas State, he racked up 276 yards and scored 4 touchdowns. I think the game's going to be a little closer, but I'm looking forward to it, and it's going to be a good game to watch. It's going to be a good game to start off the college football season. Top 25 matchup right out of the gate is what we like as fans. Is what we like to see. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Next, you roll into the 4 p.m. slate with UNLV, Idaho State. I'll watch it just because it's college football. I know UNLV has a new head coach this year.
Dan Mullen.
I think he'll probably come out going football. The UNLV, from what I've seen it with their roster, they have pretty good quarterback play, running back play. Expect a good defense out of UNLV. The spread's pretty big for that game. It's going to be UNLV -30.5. I tend to try to not go on big spreads like that, so I'm just not going to touch it.
Yeah, after a couple of years off doing commentating, Dan Mullen's coming back as a head coach. His last stint was with Florida. And it's going to be interesting to see him come back and see what kind of offense he's actually going to be running. I know he's run oriented, power run oriented, but he does like to sling the ball from time to time. You got to have a particular quarterback to run his offense. Everybody remembers what he did with Florida and Urban Meyer with Tim Tebow days. I think it's going to be an interesting game. I think it's going to be interesting having him back on the sidelines. UNLV is probably going to be a little bit of a contender this year. It's just going to be a fresh start for them. It's going to be interesting to watch him play too, and see what Dan Mullen does and what differences he's going to be bringing back to the game.
As he
With him
tries
back
to
on.
revitalize his career.
Yeah, yeah, he did not leave in good terms when he left Florida, but it is what it is. So, but it's good to have him back on the sidelines. You like to see coaches get back out there and have some other opportunities to improve themselves.
At 6:30, I think we're going to have a really good game. It's going to be Kansas Fresno State. Kansas is favored in that game by 14.5. It's actually moved 1.5 over the last 3 days, with most of the money going on Kansas for that game. I'm not going to be touching the spread. I'm going to be under the 27 for the first half.
Yeah, Kansas has had a pretty good program the last couple of years. They've gotten some recruits in. They've won some big games, but they tend to have an issue where they don't win biggest games that they need to get over that hump of being a contender. Um, it's going to be interesting. Fresno State is definitely not a pushover. I mean, you're in the state of California. You got recruits coming at you left and right. It's going to be. I think that's probably going to be a closer game than most expect as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Also,
When you send out the night, you got Sam Houston, Western Kentucky, and Stanford in Hawaii. Don't really see either of those games being a must watch. That we'll see what the Hawaii team looks like this year prior to their stadium build. I think they're going to have to be good in the next coming years just to support that stadium build.
I think so too. Yeah, I mean, I know they just approved. I think it was around 50 million to improve or build a brand new stadium for them down there. I think that's going to be good for them. It's going to be good for the players. It's going to be good for the fans and good for the state. Western Kentucky, they're one of the ones picked to win the Conference USA this year. I think it's going to be between them and Jacksonville State. Um, they tend to have a pretty good football team every year. Sam Houston, they've struggled in the past. I've got Western Kentucky picked over Sam Houston for that one. And then Stanford, I think Stanford's on the verge of making a comeback. Maybe not necessarily a national powerhouse like they used to be, but at least being relevant in their conference. I know that they've moved up in the recruiting rankings. I think they're 30th now, so they're in the top 40 of recruits. So they're doing good. Once you get into the top 40, it means that you're recruiting pretty well. And once those recruits get out on the field and they get developed and they get that offense going and that defense going, I think Stanford's we're going to start talking a little bit more about Stanford in the years to come.
You think Western Kentucky wins big tonight?
I'm going to say probably at least by 17,
It's pretty
17
fair.
points. Yeah.
So while we have all these games in mind today, let's jump into some headlines to look forward to next week. Um, right off rip, you got Crimson Tide's running back Miller out at least until they play Georgia. Well, we typically see those when running backs get hurt early in the season. They typically stay hurt throughout the season. It's kind of hard to come back as a running back in the SEC. I think just the hits, the powerhouse teams that you play week in, week out,
Hmm.
makes it hard to recover.
Yeah. Kellen DeBoer taking over for Nick Saban, you know, he inherited 4 and 5 star players that Nick Saban had recruited prior to Nick retiring. I think that regardless of whether or not Miller's back, and even if his load to carry the ball is going to be limited, there's probably 2 or 3 other people behind him that are just as good, who are biting at the bit to get up there and show what they can do. Because let's face it, this day and age in college football, you don't go to play college football to sit behind somebody. You go to either knock them out or you go somewhere else where you think you're going to get an opportunity to play. So, is it a loss for the Crimson Tide? 100%. Him coming back, is that going to be big for them? 100%. But I don't think it's going to hurt them as much as people may think.
But Alabama's going to have to run the football this year. Inexperienced QB coming in. I believe Nick Saban played him versus USF a couple years ago, and it looked good. That's kind of when Bama was trying to figure out who their starting QB
Hmm.
was going to be.
Hmm.
They benched Milrow for that week. Played 2 or 3 other QBs that week, and they all looked terrible. I expect Bama to kind of have an off year this year just to get more recruiting classes in that fit Kalen DeBoer's, I guess, criteria, how he wants to run an offense. We're still only in year 2 for him.
Right.
If you look at statistically across college football, it takes about 3 good years for a coach to get in their recruiting classes and start running the team with the discipline that they want. We saw it with Kirby Smart, and now he's, to me, the pinnacle of college football coaches.
Hmm.
Um, Dan Lanning's slowly catching up. Ohio State's catching up with money.
Hmm.
They're willing to pay to get good recruiting classes.
What?
Keep coming in.
We talked about this last time too. I mean, you look at Shane Beamer at South Carolina. If you're patient with your head coach and you give them the time and the money to get those recruiting classes in, you're going to see success on the field eventually. There are going to be some headaches, 100%. There are going to be growing pains, obviously. But if you give them the time and you be patient with them and they're the right fit, and the players buy into what the coach is preaching, then you're going to eventually see that on the field.
Shane Beamer's the perfect fit over there at South Carolina.
Hmm.
He's gonna have the ability to win big games. I think we're not too far off from seeing them into the college football playoffs. I expect it to be either this year or next year with Lenore Sellers coming back as a sophomore. I think he's going to be really good.
Hmm. I agree. Yeah.
I know I said it last week. I'm kind of expecting South Carolina to be in the SEC championship game this year. I think they have the ability to beat Bama at home, beat Texas A&M again, which Texas A&M will be an away game, and it's always tough to go into there. But I just think South Carolina is going to be good, and I want Shane Beamer's teams to be good. Being a Georgia fan, you can still root for kind of the lesser of the SEC,
Hmm.
try to step up their program. Staying on the topic of the SEC, big news out of the SEC Commission this week. They will be going to 9 conference games next year.
That is going to be a grueling schedule for any SEC team.
I mean, you
9 games playing in the best conference in the country is just insane.
you look at anybody having the potential to where you might have to play Mississippi State, Texas A&M, Texas, Bama, Georgia, all in the same year, like you might as well wash your entire season right there. You're going to be lucky to be bowl eligible after that.
Yeah, they're not they're gonna continue to play without divisions. So it's basically going to be a round table. Each school will play three annual opponents focused on maintaining tradition. I think that's going to be interesting to see who gets slotted for those three annual opponents for each team.
Well, I think for both of us being Georgia Florida fans, obviously Georgia and Florida are always going to play.
Auburn,
I think
Alabama,
Auburn, Alabama,
Tennessee, Vanderbilt at the end of the year, Mississippi State, Texas, Texas
mm-hmm.
A&M, Oklahoma, Texas. I think,
Texas A&M, Texas.
yeah, and I think they'll lock in the biggest ones. And then once those are locked in, then they'll rotate through the other SEC teams. Um, and it says each team will face every other SEC program at least once every 2 years, and every opponent home and away in 4 years. And then the biggest thing is that the SEC teams are required to schedule at least one additional high-quality non-conference game from the other Power Five conference or Notre Dame. So now here's my question: Georgia plays Georgia Tech, Florida plays Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to count for that game, or are they going to have to schedule an additional Power Five school?
And that's my question: is how can you come out and say you're going to be forced to play a high quality opponent when is that something we're going to look at the end of the year of did you meet that criteria, or is it going to be on projections of this was supposed to be a high quality opponent?
Right.
Like I'm on Georgia Tech real big this
Right.
year.
A lot of
I
people
think
are.
they're going to win the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens if week one they come out and they lose starting QB, starting running back, wide receiver one, and by the end of the year they're just not a quality
Yeah,
opponent
they're
that you would normally
six and
see?
six or 7-5. Yeah.
So is the SEC commission going to say, "Hey, you didn't play a single quality opponent"?
Right. Yeah. You know, and again, with Florida playing Florida State, Georgia playing Georgia Tech, South Carolina playing Clemson, does that count as that one quality opponent because that's a traditional rivalry game? Or are you going to have to add another one on top of that? So now you're playing your nine game SEC schedule. So let's take Florida, Clemson, or Georgia or South Carolina and Georgia, for instance, and you're playing Florida State, Clemson, and Georgia Tech. So let's schedule another one. So now that's 10, that's 11 Power Five games that you're
Right.
playing through those. So you're getting one game in the season to kind of have a scrub game, if you would, where you can schedule a smaller FBS school like from the American or Conference USA or Sunbelt, or FCS school that some of these big schools play from time to time.
And I would hope over the next year we see this spread across every division of college football because the SEC wants the SEC teams to play the best possible schedule for the fans and to basically put asses in seats.
Yeah.
But what happens when the Big Ten doesn't reciprocate this nuance of college football? And then you meet them in the college football playoffs. Well, you have four hurt SEC teams because they just played a powerhouse schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And now Oregon's coming in there healthy. Ohio State's coming in healthy. Michigan's coming in healthy just because, yeah, they all play each other during the year. But outside of that, like they play Purdue.
Right.
Um, they just don't have the schedule to match an SEC powerhouse.
Well, and
But I also think it helps too at the end of the year because if I've played 11 high quality teams and I've suffered two losses and I'm right there on the bubble, but I'm on the bubble with Clemson that hasn't
Mhm.
faced hardly any top 25 teams or high quality opponents.
Mhm.
I think at that point you have a better standing of getting more SEC teams in just off strength of schedule.
And I think where this is probably headed is your other Power Five conferences are probably going to do this 9 game conference schedule with the one quality opponent. So that's going to be 10 total games, which leaves 2 games open, whether it's FCS or a smaller FBS school. But I think before it's over with, you're going to see Power Five conferences start to separate from the Group of Five conferences.
Yeah.
And you may see a different type of division that's made just among the Power Five and then just among the Group of Five. Kind
I
of like
think
how the
that
NFL is now with how they're divided up.
I think that high quality opponent though can also hurt college football in a way because, like, UGA has Marshall coming in next week.
Mhm.
Well, there's no telling how much Marshall is getting paid to come in and play Powerhouse Georgia. That's keeping their program alive.
Pretty good chunk of change, if
Right.
I'm pretty sure about it.
Like,
So,
I know Troy there for a while was basing their entire program off going and playing LSU
mhm.
at Baton Rouge for their homecoming. Actually went in there and beat them one year
Mhm.
on their homecoming. But I think that's how you keep college football alive for some of these smaller programs is by them allowed to play powerhouse teams.
And
Because right now you're looking at two basically FBS schools that get to come in
right,
and get dog stomped by whatever team they're facing.
yeah. But for
But
them, it's
that's
not
keeping
about
their
the team, about the game. It's about the
it's
money.
about the money and
They
it's
need that
keeping
money. Yeah.
their program alive.
And I saw a headline the other day where some coaches were concerned about. And I think Kirby Smart was one of the ones voicing this, that we need to be careful and not let the money take over, and which is going to affect some of these smaller schools
Hmm.
who do rely on these games to come into Georgia, to go into Florida, to go into Oregon, or go into Ohio State. These smaller FBS schools, or even some of these FCS schools that come in and they get paid 750,000 or a million and a half to, basically get the crap beat out of them. But they do it for the money because that money is what allows them to buy their equipment. Their money is what allows them to feed their players. That money is what
Continue to
allows them
travel.
to travel and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But I do think eventually we're going to start seeing more of a separation between the Power Five and the Group of Five. And somehow, or some way, that's going to have to be handled amongst the NCAA, how they're going to keep everybody competitive and how that money is going to be distributed properly and stuff like that. So, but we'll see how it goes. But I do think everybody will eventually go to a 9-game conference schedule.
But speaking on these 9-game conference schedules, it's just going to impact how deep can you make your team to be able to go through a grueling schedule.
Right.
It brings us into the top 40 recruiting class for 2026.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, you got USC right now. I think they'll be good with their recruits that are coming in. California teams kind of have a leg up in recruiting out on the West Coast. Typically, you see powerhouses out in Cali, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Florida's been generating some awesome talent here lately. You have Georgia every now and then, but have you seen Texas high school football?
Yes, it's
insane.
it's a religion. In
At
itself, it's a religion.
number 2 in the top 40 recruiting class is going to be Georgia. 3, Texas A&M. 4, Texas. Notre Dame tied at number 4.
Yeah.
Number 6 is Oregon. Number 7 is Alabama. 8, Ohio State. 9, LSU. 10 is Michigan. I'm going to leave out number 11.
Number 11 is Florida for all y'all who care.
12, Miami. 13, FSU. 14, North Carolina. 15, Tennessee. 16, Clemson. 17 is Penn State. 18 is Washington. 19 is BYU. 20 is SMU.
Yeah, and then we're going to continue with 21 with UCLA, again, California schools. 22, Illinois. 23, Syracuse. 24, South Carolina. Phil Cox. 25, Texas Tech. 26, Baylor. 27, Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma just made it into the top 40 this week with some of the recruits that just signed. They've been outside the top 40 for a little while now. 28, Rutgers. 29, Louisville. 30 is Pittsburgh. 38 is Kansas, which we talked a little bit. 39, California. Again, another West Coast school. And then 40, Arizona.
You know who I didn't see on that list?
Is that
Auburn.
You did not see Auburn, which is funny because Auburn just landed a 4-star safety, Braylon Womack. He just signed a couple of days ago, which is going to bolster their defense, which, Auburn always has a good defense.
I just think they have program problems. I don't think Hugh Freeze was the right person to go in and try to fix that program. You see what Vanderbilt's doing right now with the alumni coach.
Yeah.
Vandy's starting to break through in the SEC. I think over the next couple of years, you're going to see Auburn football kind of turn into the doormat of the SEC.
I think the issue too is there's no patience in Auburn. They want to bring in a coach who they want to win immediately, and they forget the fact that this coach has got to come in and he's got to establish his system. He's got to bring in his recruits, and you've got to give him the power to run the program the way he needs to run it. The problem is that the boosters have, in my opinion, the boosters at Auburn have way too much involvement and too much say in how Auburn football goes. And I think if you give a coach like Hugh Freeze, which Hugh Freeze has shown he can win in the SEC when he was with Ole Miss, he has shown he can compete. He has shown he can win the big games. If you give him the time that he needs, again, South Carolina is the perfect example of this, and let him run that program the way that program needs to be run, then I think Auburn can have some success. But as long as your boosters are essentially dictating what happens with the football program because of the money that they give, you're not going to find a coach that's going to be willing to go to that program, no matter how big it is, if they're not going to have total control over it.
Which this is year 3, so it's time for the patience is wearing thin.
It is.
And I understand your point of view of you have to have patience with a head coach, but when you are coaching a team like Auburn and you're not even breaking the top 40 recruiting class, like that just means players are not wanting to come to your program. And why would they? Last year you're just awful. And then when you suffer losses as an SEC school to like New Mexico State 2 years ago, your top five recruits are not going to want to come to your program.
Mm-hmm.
I hope eventually they get a coach in there that wants to play. The best talent gets out here, recruits, and they actually start winning some football games. Because I mean, we're only an hour and a half from going and watching Auburn football, but
Right.
it ain't even worth buying the ticket right now.
I think Auburn will rebound. It may not be with Hugh Freeze, but I think eventually they will find a good coach that will come in and will convince the administration and the boosters to let him do what he needs to do. And then they will give him the time that he needs, and then Auburn will be back to national prominence, which is where they need to be.
But you know, they did that big buyout for Gus Malzahn, and their program immediately went into the trash. They were averaging 10-2 seasons, 9-3 seasons with Gus, and just thought they were going to get over that edge, hiring a new coach.
Yeah.
And I think you just have a long line here. We've seen it at a couple schools where the recruiting goes down. They keep hiring head coaches. Florida's a prime example of it. Post Spurrier days, post Meyer days, where
Mm-hmm.
they just went head coach to head coach, and no one's been able to imply any or supply any discipline to the program and anything that brings value to the program.
Right. Right.
Next, we can dive into Notre Dame solidifies their independence based off the SEC going to a 9-game schedule.
You know, I've always said that at least with football, Notre Dame ought to be in a conference, whether that's the ACC conference or the Big Ten conference. I mean, I know they've got their traditional games where they played USC, but you look at who they play throughout the year. It's either mostly Big Ten. It's mostly Big Ten schools and ACC schools.
Mhm.
You know, but I do think that them having the freedom that they have to schedule the types of games that they can because they are independent helps them.
But you know, the landscape of the college football playoffs is going to be different this year.
Yeah.
With the conference no longer getting a bye, it's just going to be the top 5 teams,
Right.
which further solidifies Notre Dame not going to a conference.
Yep.
If I can play an independent conference and still get a bye,
Exactly.
why join a conference?
Why join a conference? Yeah.
And then I don't have to split profit sharing,
Right.
anything.
Yeah.
You want to pay me $10 million for making the national championship game this year. Guess who gets it all?
Yeah.
I
Notre
do.
Dame. Yeah. They don't have to give out any. So I think that'll still be one of these things that continues to be questioned on whether or not they should be in a conference or they shouldn't be in a conference. But in the meantime, you go independent, Notre Dame. It's going to be interesting to see what you guys do this year. So the next headline or question, the biggest question is can Ohio State be a contender this year due to the loss of all the playmakers?
Absolutely. Ohio State is never going to have that big drop off that I think everyone kind of expects. They have a knack for getting talent just reoccurring, bringing the best out all of their players. You have Jeremiah Smith, which is going to be really good this year. Um, I'm not sure of their QB play for the year. I think that's one of those we'll have to see week one with them
Mm-hmm.
playing Texas at home.
Mm-hmm.
Gives you a really good look of what Ohio State's going to look like, which with Texas is Arch Manning overhyped.
I'm going to say no right now. Just a little bit that he got to play last year. He's a baller. I mean, he's coming from the royalty of the Mannings.
And I think he's going to get judged based off his performance
Yeah.
against Georgia last year, where they basically threw him into the game. He gets murked for 2 drives, and then they're like, "Nope, we're going back to Quinn Ewers."
And you can't. I don't care how good you are. I don't care what your last name is. You cannot come off the bench, get thrown into a game against a defense like Georgia or an Alabama, and expect to and not have been playing much during the year and expect to have a lot of success right out of the gate. It's not going to happen.
Because going into this year, we had an entire spring camp, summer practices, fall camp of him knowing he's QB1 this year.
Right.
I think you prepare differently when you're QB1.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see what he looks like this year.
Yeah.
Is there going to be a drop off in Arizona State with Scatterboo leaving for the
I'm going to say
NFL?
yes.
I think their head coach is really good.
I agree with that too.
That Arizona State team's going to be tough. I look for them to make the college football playoffs again this year. Boise State, they're not. They might dominate their conference, but I don't see them being good against their quality opponents. I don't know if they play Oregon again this year or not.
I don't think so.
I know they played Oregon early last year,
Yeah.
and actually he put up some good numbers. Don't look for them to make the college football playoffs this year.
So coming out of West Virginia, there was a couple of players, 4 to be exact, that challenged NCAA's ruling. It's a 5-year limit for players to compete over 4 seasons. So West Virginia is getting 4 players back this year: a defensive lineman, their running back Ty Edwards, safety Justin Harrington, and wide receiver Jess Weimer. So that's pretty big for West Virginia because they've been struggling over the last couple of years. They need all the help they can get. They have not had a extremely successful season in a while.
So I know we mentioned Vandy earlier.
Mm-hmm.
They were returning 77% of their production this year. I know you've asked the question, are they built for an SEC championship run? I don't think it's quite yet. I think they still need a year or two. It won't be this year, but I think next year we're looking at a very good Vandy team. I know they play Alabama again this year. It's going to be a revenge game for Bama. Just see if they can get a get back. I know they play Texas. I will say if Vandy beats Alabama and Texas in the same season, Vandy has completely turned around their program.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to move into some quarterbacks starting. Missouri says they're going to play 2 quarterbacks for their season opener because they can't seem to decide who they want to start the season. So
If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. You have to name a QB1 in the SEC to have that confidence going in.
yeah,
We saw the same thing last year with Lagway, Grant, where they both have talent. We're going to play both of them, and Florida just seemed off. You look at a standpoint of your offensive line gets used to QB1's cadence through spring camp, through summer, through fall,
mm-hmm.
and you're just going to throw quarterbacks in there based off the play package. I don't think that builds the cohesion that you need across an offensive line through an offense in order to be successful with that. I look for them at least by week 2 or week 3 to name a QB1.
Yeah, well, and also the timing with the passing game, with the routes and the receivers. I mean, quarterbacks and receivers, they basically learn each other. And if you're bringing in somebody totally different that's not getting the same amount of time or the same amount of reps or throws the ball a little harder or maybe the accuracy is not as good as QB1 versus QB2. They can throw your passing game off, and in a sticky situation or a 2 minute situation, if you're trying to get points up on the board, it can be difficult. So I agree with you. I think by week 2, Missouri definitely will probably have their starting quarterback. So
Yeah, Ohio State named QB Julian Sayin their starting QB.
mhm.
If you have not watched his high school highlights, I highly recommend them.
I have not.
Outstanding QB in high school. Obviously, I know that's high school. It doesn't always reflect. We've seen good QBs come out of high school and just not be able to adjust to the speed of the game.
Yeah.
Um, in high school, you're normally if you're a really good QB in high school, you're carrying your team every week. And even Lagway talked about it last year, how he struggled coming into college
Mm-hmm.
because he's not the only playmaker on the field, and he's had to learn how to rely on his weapons on offense just to be good.
Yeah. And news out of BYU, they're actually going to start a true freshman quarterback, Bear, for the first time in BYU history. A true
He's got to be
freshman.
good.
With that name, I'm
With
telling
that
you,
name, you
boy.
got to be good.
Yeah, that's just an awesome name. I like that. So I'm sure we're going to hear a lot out of Bear Bachmeyer this year with BYU.
Yep.
So, and then Notre Dame names redshirt freshman quarterback C.J. Carr as their starting quarterback for the season, and then Tennessee names, which we knew this was probably coming, Joey Aguilar as their starting quarterback. So,
If they're naming him QB1, he can sling a football. That's Josh Heupel's offense.
oh
They're
yeah,
going to run
100%.
quick.
Yeah, they're
Um,
going to be that ball's going to be all over the field.
Prior to taking a break, let's talk about Auburn claiming 4 additional national championships. What a worse time in a program to say, yeah, in 1920, we were national
I'm
champions.
telling you, the trolling on social media from them doing that is insane. Auburn, I love you. I grew up near there. But I'm telling you, boy, now is not the time.
No,
I'm
like,
sorry.
oh, we suck again.
Yeah,
Let's
let's
claim some
claim
national
national
championships just to get
championships.
the fans back into it.
Yeah, and obviously, I think there were some mixed feelings with that, but I'll tell you, there's some big name people who openly criticize that decision.
Oh yeah,
Like, what are you doing right now? Now is not the time to be
and
talking about this
even
stuff.
doing it in the same week. I know we didn't talk about it yet, but Auburn has decided to retire Cam Newton's jersey.
They have, yes.
What a worse time to try to claim some national championships after you release some news like that. In my opinion, Cam Newton will go down as one of the greatest QBs in college football.
Yes.
What he did with that team, I want to say I saw a stat the other day where he played like over 1,100 snaps in the NFL, and everyone else on his team that year, 2010, when they won the national championship, played 1 snap in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
If that doesn't show you he carried that team,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what does. And I think it is highly likely that he will go down as greatest college football quarterback.
He started out at Florida. He had some issues and left Florida and went to Auburn. And he turned himself around, which was a good thing for him. He was a great college quarterback, and things that he did with that team and playing against the teams that they played against during that time was just phenomenal. He's an athlete. I mean, and player like that only comes along once every so often. Your Tim Tebow's, your Cam Newtons, your Michael Vicks. If you're looking back in the '90s, I mean, these guys are just phenomenal at what they do, and when we get to watch them play and get to see them do the things that they do and the superhero-esque type things that they can do, it's great for the game. It's great for the fans. It's great for the program. It's great for the TV, and the highlight reels are just fun to watch.
And then Cam even went on to be an NFL MVP.
Right.
Kind of sucks. He was right there on the end of Manning's retirement when he was at Denver and lost in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So, well, with that, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be coming back with some news from the NFL. Welcome back to Beyond the Game podcast. I'm your host, Terry,
I'm your host, Trey.
and we're going to talk a little bit about the NFL. We're going to start off with some headlines, and then we're just going to roll into some of the conferences and talk about just a few of the teams we think are going to be vying for conference wins and conference champions and playoff wins, maybe some wild card berths, and eventually the Super Bowl.
I think biggest news coming out of the NFL right now is out of the Bengals and the Dallas Cowboys, where they're both about to lose mere stars on defense. Trey Hendrickson has requested a trade from the Bengals. They've been working on deals all offseason. I don't think they get the deal done. The Bengals are showing why they are a poverty program. Last year, it was just we need a better defense. We need a better defense. You have a dude that leads the league in sacks last year, and you refuse to pay him. I think they're still going to be trash this year.
Well, it's that mentality of we'll put all of our money into offense and we're just going to go out and score more points than you. And so if you score 47, I'm going to score 48. Or if you score 50, I'm going to score 52. And we're going to win that way through a whole 18 game year. It's just
It's
not
just
going to
not
work.
going to work. And then again, the Dallas Cowboys just shows how
With Michael Parsons.
I cannot stand Jerry Jones.
A lot of people.
I wish he would sell that team. It's the we're America's team. It no longer. They paid Dak, but they were refusing to pay Parsons. Like I just don't get it.
Yeah, and I think, with both of them, those guys not coming back if they don't play, or if even if they do get traded, or whatever happens, whether it's going to affect those teams negatively if those players leave those teams. Michael Parsons is a phenomenal defensive player for the Dallas Cowboys.
So he has requested a trade, but he's still got 3 years left on contract. And it said, I want to say to make $23.4 million. Jerry Jones came out last week saying that we have offered him the highest non-QB contract ever for the Dallas Cowboys. But if you look at the statistics of Jerry Jones, it's probably nowhere close to what Myles Garrett's getting paid right now. And I think Parsons will play this year, just as the team aspect. And I mean, you still have 3 years on contract, and if you don't play, you get fined. I look for Jerry to franchise tag him again next year, just to keep him with the team and keep talking through contract negotiations. I did read a article the other day where Jerry called Parsons' agent. He was like, "Hey man, this is the deal. We finalize it," and basically Parsons' agent told him to shove it.
Yeah, he used some choice words. I saw that too. It was quoted. I read that same article. Michael Parsons and his agent is not happy with the offers that they're getting from the Cowboys and Jerry Jones. And for somebody who has the money that he has, just pay the man what he wants.
Right.
And keep him there. If not, then give him what he wants. Give him a trade and go from there. I mean, this bantering back and forth is all you're doing is you're hurting the team, you're hurting the fans, you're hurting the NFL. Just fix it.
And like nothing aggravates me more than as a football fan to watch the Dallas Cowboys primetime Monday night lose like 43-6 to the Detroit Lions, and the first thing you see the next day is Jerry Jones doing a press conference.
Right.
If you are an owner, hire a GM that knows football, that's not senile, that can run a football team.
Yeah.
Like everyone wants the Dallas Cowboys to be good, but as long as Jerry runs that team, it's terrible. I mean, and I don't think it gets better after Jerry, because his son's 10 times worse about paying people.
You can't tag yourself as America's team and then not be America's team.
Not be America's team.
Because right now you're just not. There's too many other teams out there that people are jumping on bandwagons with and watching other, because they're sick and tired of the Cowboys losing. They're sick and tired of the Cowboys not making the playoffs. They're sick and tired of the Cowboys not winning their division. They're tired of the drama. They're tired of Jerry Jones. They're just tired of the Dallas Cowboys.
Because first game of the year for NFL, we have the Eagles and Cowboys playing on a Thursday night primetime game. I hope the Eagles absolutely stomp the
And,
Cowboys in that
and it
game.
probably will happen.
Um, Hopefully we can bankrupt the Cowboys and Jerry Jones is forced to sell the team.
Yeah. Just don't move them out of Dallas.
Right.
Just leave them in
With all
Dallas.
that in mind, we're going to jump into some conferences here, starting with the AFC East. You have the Bills, Dolphins, Patriots, and Jets. The Bills have a pretty good chance there to just win their conference. Miami's QB is always injury prone. I think he's one good concussion just away from not having life.
Miami, you missed the Dan Marino days, I guess, but they've got some athletes down there, and I think they are a franchise quarterback away from being competitive again if they can get the right quarterback in. Um, I just don't know if they're going to be able to get that done this year with who they have at quarterback. I mean, Tua, how many concussions did he have last year?
I think he had one good one last year, but it's kind of been the trend over the last 3 years where Tua goes down with a concussion.
Yeah, and
I mean, he's even to the point of getting concussions where he just gets like, what is it, like paralysis where his
yeah,
fingers lock up.
and there's a light at the end of the tunnel because they did draft Quinn Ewers from Texas, who has been seeing some playing time in the preseason, and he's been looking pretty good. But they are hurting right now. Their running back, both their running backs are out or questionable. Tyreek Hill is questionable. The center Aaron Brewer is questionable, and their right tackle Austin Jackson is questionable, along with their backup left guard. I mean, they're just hurting on offensively. They're hurting injury wise. Defense is the same. They've got one, two, three, four. They got four defensive starters that are questionable right now for week one that are dealing with injuries. And then not only are their starters questionable, but their backups are questionable with injuries.
Yeah, with that, I
So,
think the Buffalo Bills win the AFC East pretty easily. I think New England will be good next year just to give Vrabel some time to get in there and change their system, change their program.
yeah,
Next, we're going to go to the AFC North with the Poverty Bengals, the Cleveland Browns, who can't even name a QB, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who got Aaron Rodgers this year. Um, Everyone's acting like Aaron Rodgers is going to come in and be the saving grace. Um, just to be realistic, he's not in his younger playing days of when he was good at Green Bay.
no.
We saw him on the Jets, just limited mobility. I I think that set Pittsburgh back, to be honest. Um, we'll see. But then we got the Baltimore Ravens, which are always good.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson.
I look for Derrick Henry to have another breakout year.
Yeah.
Um, Derrick Henry is kind of one of those old guard running backs still carrying the league.
hmm
Um, Kind of like Barkley.
Yeah. So I think Baltimore will win the AFC North this year, like they did last year. I think as long as they stay healthy and they can keep Lamar Jackson healthy and maybe limit a little bit of his runs, just to keep him upright and get him deep
Mhm.
into the playoffs. I think they'll be fine. Cleveland, they're going to have not a good year this year. They named Joe Flacco their starting quarterback over Kenny Pickett, who is out with a hamstring injury. And granted, they did draft Dylan Gabriel and Shadur Sanders, but it's looking like there may not be a spot.
Even see the field.
Yeah.
Are they talking about cutting him?
So right now, him and Dylan are battling for the number 3 spot because Kenny's number 2 and Joe Flacco's number 1.
Basically, whoever gets QB3, the other one will probably go at the squad, maybe.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So,
I mean, you drafted him, so you're going to have to pay regardless. So you
yeah, I
might
mean,
as
he's
well
going to get
practice
his
squad.
money, but I just, you hate that for a good kid, who was looking to have a successful NFL career. And honestly, I don't think Cleveland's probably would have been his best fit anyway.
I think Cleveland is where
So,
good QBs go to die in Cleveland. You look at Baker, absolutely tearing it up down there in Tampa Bay.
well, I think it's the system and the coach. I mean, you gotta play to your quarterback strengths. I mean, look at what they're doing with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. Yes, he is a phenomenal passer, but he is also a dual threat guy, right? So they are taking his ability to run the ball and they are implementing that in their game plan with a running back like Derrick Henry. I mean, you can't argue the success because of the success that they've had,
Right.
you know? So and I think that's the thing. I think that you're getting these quarterbacks that are coming out of college that are considered dual threat, and they're going to these teams that want a traditional NFL quarterback who just sits in the pocket and picks apart defenses. These guys aren't going to do that. And if that line is not used to them scrambling and running, then you're going to have sacks. You're going to have issues with them throwing on the run, and there's going to be communication issues between him and between the quarterback and the receivers. So I think the system has got to fit the quarterback. Um, so and the great coaches are able to do that.
Hmm.
So
So
but
look for. I just think that Ravens win the AFC North
oh,
pretty
100%.
easily.
Yeah.
Next, we'll go into the AFC South. Um, you have Stroud down there at Houston. I look for them to win their division this year. The Colts have benched AR
They have.
for week one. It's kind of like what you see in Cleveland. I think it's easier to start a veteran week one and then move into your rookie or move into your less experienced QB versus doing the opposite where you have to worry about your inexperienced QB losing confidence when they get benched for the veteran. I think that's a good move on the Colts to go with experience out of the gate, but I look for AR to be starting at least by week 4, week 5.
If is I think Daniel Jones is one of those that maybe got the raw end of the deal
With the
with the
Giants.
Giants. I think a lot of that had to do with the lack of weapons that he had around him. At least in Indianapolis, he's got Jonathan Taylor as a running back. He's got Michael Pittman Jr. as a wide receiver. Josh Downs as a wide receiver. He's got Tyler Warren by the end. The thing with Daniel Jones is that you've got to keep him up,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got to have a good left tackle and a good left guard to watch his blind side. If you can keep him up and give him time, he's a good quarterback. I'm not saying he's a great quarterback. He's a good quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And if you give him the weapons, then yeah, Indianapolis is going to have some success. But I agree with you. I think Anthony Richardson will be starting, if not by week 2, week 3, or week 4. Um, and then, not to mention, they also have Riley Leonard as their third string quarterback, which they just,
I think AR just
drafted.
struggles with decision making. I know you, as a Florida fan, had to deal with it for a couple years.
Yes, he.
If it's 3rd and 3,
Yeah,
Anthony Richardson is throwing the ball 65
yeah,
yards. And that decision making does not carry over to
it
the
does not.
NFL.
No.
If it's 3rd and 3, we're looking to sustain a drive.
Yeah,
Get something to check down,
yeah.
short. We're not looking for bombs every single play.
No, and I think that's development on his part, and I don't know if that's just a lack of him having if he's having a hard time understanding the system, or if he just gets in there and he just gets too focused on what's going on, tunnel vision, if you will. But he's an athlete. He's a good quarterback, and I agree with you. I think he will be playing for Indianapolis this year at some point.
If you need 60 yards, AR is your guy. If you need 3 guys or 3 yards,
Yeah,
AR is not your guy.
yeah, unless he's running.
Right. Moving into the AFC West, we got the Broncos, the Chiefs, Raiders, and Chargers. Hope Kansas City has a down year. I know we kind of talked about this the other day. But you want to see some new guard come in. I think Andy Reid is a phenomenal coach with Patrick Mahomes. Just watching some documentaries of that team, Reid just lets them kind of play how the game feels out.
Right.
When you have Mahomes that can do extraordinary things with the football.
I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback extend plays the way that Patrick Mahomes does. It blows
I
my
think the
mind.
hate he gets is they made a highlight reel last year of all the flops he did on the sidelines. And I'm not going to say that refs control a game, but when you're willing to throw a flag in the last 2 minutes of a drop or 2 minute drive, 4th quarter, and you affect the outcome of the game as a ref, I just don't think that's necessary for professional football. And when you have a QB running towards the sideline, slows down in order to get pushed out to get a flag, like that just makes people not want to watch your team,
Hmm.
or they just watch it to watch you lose.
Right.
Um, I think all of America celebrated last year when the Eagles beat them in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I think Kansas City probably wins the AFC West this year. I do think that it's not going to be as clear cut as a lot of people think it's going to be. I think that Denver's going to have a pretty successful year this year.
Do you think the Chargers come out this year?
I think the Chargers have the potential if they can get their injury squared away. They are hurting right now. A lot of teams right now are hurting across the board just with injuries. A lot of teams battling injuries. Um, yeah, I've never been a big fan of the preseason, because for injury reasons, because you get these starters that go out there and they're only playing one or two series, per game, but they get out there and you get a guy that blows a knee out,
Mm-hmm.
or you get a guy that breaks a leg or hurts a shoulder, and then, or they re-aggravate an injury that was almost healed. That if they had taken these 4 weeks off instead of being pushed to play or pushed to see if they can do it, so. But I do think that Kansas City does win the AFC West, and I do think, like everybody else, they're probably going to make a deep playoff run.
So next, we're going to jump over to the National Football Conference, NFC East. I think you're going to have a two-team kind of playoff there between the Commanders and the Eagles.
I am going to go ahead and tell you, I like me some Washington.
Some Jaden Daniels.
I think that they are going to do really well this year. I think the games against the Eagles that they play are probably going to be a lot closer than most people are expecting.
But one big thing coming out of Washington right now is wide receiver one contract negotiations with Terry McLaurin. I
Yeah.
I think Jaden Daniels covers up a lot of open spots for the Commanders. Um, I think they have several liabilities that he is able to overcome, and I think losing his wide receiver one would expose those even more. Um,
Well, not to mention losing wide receiver one, but they also just traded their running back, Brian Johnson Jr., to the 49ers,
mhm.
and they get a 2026 sixth-round pick. So not only are you losing production at wide receiver, you're also losing production at
They
running
got
back.
Debo this year, though.
But they do have their other two running backs are going to be good. They drafted a running back, and I read an article the other day where they said they're extremely happy with their offensive production, um, with what they've been doing in the preseason. So it's going to be interesting, but I do think that I agree with you. I do think that the NFC East is going to come down between the Commanders and the Giants.
I hope Dallas goes winless. I just hope.
Dude, I'm telling you, if Dallas goes winless this year, or if they don't even break even, I think there's going to be some changes.
What are you going to do? Fire a head coach?
Well,
Can't fire an owner.
no, you can't. But I mean, I'm just saying, there's somebody's going to be mad somewhere.
Going into the NFC North, I think this is going to be the best conference of the year. You got the Lions, the Packers, and the Vikings. We saw it come down last year to the last game of the season, pretty much between the Lions and Vikings trying to win
Yep.
the entire NFC and get that first round bye.
Yeah. I, I'm looking forward to watching the Packers play a little bit. Jordan Love's back from his hand surgery.
Is
I know the Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, is going to have a pretty good year. Detroit, it's good to see Detroit back in the running of things.
back in the hunt.
Yeah, so I think they're going to be doing pretty good. So, but I think,
Their head coach is awesome.
yeah, I also think that we're going to be. It's going to be tight that division, I think, between them. I don't think anybody's going to run away with it. I think it's going to be the same as last year. I think it's going to come down to all three of them, and I think it's going to come down to probably the last couple of games of the season to get.
It's also
one
cool
over
to
the
see
top.
how dirty golf was done by the Rams.
Mhm.
For him to come to Detroit and completely turn around a program. I'm a huge Jared Goff fan. I'm probably going to buy one of his jerseys this year, actually. Either that or Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's awesome on the Detroit Lions. Going into the NFC South, we have my team, the Atlanta Falcons, the New Orleans Saints, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Carolina Panthers. I think the Falcons are going to win the NFC South this year. I'll go ahead and put that out there. Everyone's acting like the Falcons are so bad, but forget that halfway through the season last year, the Falcons had a 4-game lead on the Buccaneers
Mm-hmm.
before Kirk Cousins turned into a interception machine. And I want to say over a 3-game stretch, he threw 2 TDs and maybe 8 interceptions, and you're just not winning professional football games that way.
No. And you know, you pick the Falcons. I'm picking the Buccaneers again. I think Baker Mayfield has rejuvenated his NFL career by going to Tampa Bay. Um, he's got Bucky Irvin and Rashad White behind him at running back, who are two phenomenal running backs at pass protection and giving him the time that he needs. And then you throw in Baker's mobility on top of that. Chris Godwin, he just got reactivated, I believe. I think they're thinking he's going to be back in a couple of weeks. That's going to be his main target for Baker. Um, and then the offensive line, they brought back pretty much everybody on the offensive line. So I think that Tampa Bay is going to make a run this year. The question is just they're going to be their own worst enemy. So
And I know I'm a Falcons fan, and I say that they win the NFC South. I think they've added enough key pieces on defense in order to be good this year.
mhm.
And you have Penix coming out sophomore season. He got some valuable starts last year, and then having a veteran QB like Kirk Cousins sitting behind him, able and just the attitude Kirk Cousins has. I think it carries over into Penix. I look for Kyle Pitts to have a breakout year this year. If he doesn't, I think this is his last year in professional football.
Yeah.
I know we drafted him expecting him. He had a really good rookie year, and since then he's kind of just fallen to the back way
Mhm.
of the Falcons' offensive production. Um, I think Penix brings out the best side of him this year, and we see a good tight end play out of the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, and I read an article the other day where they talked to Michael Penix with his relationship about Kyle Pitts. Not only are they spending a lot of time together on the field, but they're spending a lot of time together off the field, and they're really solidifying that connection, not only professionally but personally. And we know, you know, just as well as I do, you get these quarterbacks that hang out with their receivers and their running backs and their tight ends. It does relate football field. It does relate in big games. It does relate in, tough times, leadership and stuff like that. So I think Atlanta's going to have a good year this year. And I agree with you. I do think that it's going to come. That Atlanta has a very good chance of winning.
And it's been a while since us Falcons fans have seen quarterback play out of Atlanta.
Yeah.
The old days of Matt Ryan
Hmm.
led us to a Super Bowl. We lost 28-3. Heartbreaking loss, by the way. But we go out, we draft Desmond Ritter, which I couldn't comprehend. When you look for a franchise QB, to me, you have to look at these big universities and quarterbacks coming out of them. Like Patrick Mahomes came out of Texas Tech.
Hmm.
Jaden Daniels came out of LSU. Joe Burrow came out of LSU. Josh Allen been in the league so long I forgot where he went to college. He went to Wyoming, actually.
I was going to say it was either Wyoming or
Yeah.
Western Michigan, wasn't it?
He went to Wyoming.
Yeah.
You have to go to these big universities to get good QB play. I didn't think Penix was the answer. I think that kind of hurt Kirk Cousins' confidence last year, even prior to the season starting, because it's kind of like, oh, well, we're gonna pay you all this money and then go draft a QB
Mm-hmm.
eighth round.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense.
Out of the NFC West, we got the Rams, the Cardinals, the 49ers, and Seahawks. I think that's going to be the bottom of the NFL this year. I don't look for the 49ers to be good. Cardinals haven't been good in years.
So to piggyback off the 49ers, I think they will win their division just because it's the 49ers and right now they're better than everybody else. But looking at their depth chart, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, about 16 or 17 players that are either questionable, with one being suspended for the first 3 games for violating NFL substance abuse policy, and with that being Demarcus Robinson, wide receiver. But Brandon Ayuk is out. Juan Jennings is questionable. We've got two offensive linemen. Most of their injuries are on the defensive side of the football, which we know last year San Francisco had the best defense in the NFL, or
Mhm.
one of the best defenses in the NFL. And now they've got one, two, three, four, five, six starters that are all questionable for week one. I mean, and it's not just their starters; their backups are questionable as well. So I think San Francisco is going to have a lot of injury questions they're going to have to answer prior to starting week one and getting these guys healthy. Um,
Which, speaking on injuries, the Rams are kind of struggling with the biggest injury of them all with QB1, having some back issues in Matthew Stafford.
hmm
Um, if Stafford goes down early, I don't look for the Rams to be a contender this year. If he can stay healthy through an entire NFL slate, I think it's going to kind of be like last year where they're mediocre in some games and then they look really good and they
hmm
just don't keep it.
Yeah.
With us discussing all these teams, who do you expect to be your Super Bowl contenders this year?
Oh, you know, I'm gonna go. I'll give you my four top teams. How about that? I think Buffalo and Baltimore are going to be
Mhm.
contending. I think Philadelphia is going to be up there, and I'm gonna go ahead and pick my sleeper, and I'm gonna say Washington.
Okay, so I'll go Eagles. Um, Obviously, the Buffalo Bills. I just don't see the Ravens making it to the Super Bowl this year. Um, I'll go Detroit, and then I'll go sleeper with the Falcons. At least making it to the NFC Championship round this year.
hmm Yeah, I think this season is going to be a little bit more wild than saying, yeah, these set teams are going to be the ones that are going to go because there's a few sleepers out there that can hurt some people or hurt some other teams if they win. So, but I do think that out of everything that's going on, a lot of these teams need to get their injuries squared away, or else it's going to be a horrible season for everybody.
And that's what you know. In the next couple of weeks, you have some fantasy drafts coming up,
hmm
and it's kind of the trend every year when fantasy drafts come up is you really don't know who's hiding injuries.
Right.
I will say I was done dirty last year by the 49ers. I actually had first pick of my fantasy draft last year, and I went Christian McCaffrey, and he played
Oh,
3 games.
play 3 games. Yeah.
Played 3 games last year, and I
Yeah.
wasted a first round pick on him.
Yeah.
Um, there should You should not hide an injury up to week one of the season. That's almost a season-ending injury, but you just want to shove it under the rug.
Right.
I think it hurts fan bases. Definitely hurt me in my fantasy. Um,
Yeah, I'm sure it
it,
did.
it was it was a tough year in
I'm
fantasy
sure it
last
hurt
year.
you and a lot of other people that went with Christian McCaffrey
Oh
right out of
yeah,
the gate. So yeah. Um, just a couple other quick things. There were some trades that happened this week. You know, Vikings trade defensive tackle Harrison Phillips to the Jets for 2027 seventh round pick, and the Vikings get a 2026 sixth round pick and a 2027 sixth round pick. Broncos traded wide receiver Devon Belay to the Saints, where they get a fourth round pick in 2026 and a seventh round pick for 2027. I think the biggest trade is probably the Texans trade wide receiver John Mechie III to the Eagles as another weapon for the Eagles to have. And the Texans get tight end Harrison Bryant and a 2026 fifth round pick. Then the Giants traded tight end Darren Waller for a 2027 seventh round pick to the Dolphins. And the Giants get a 2026 unconditional sixth round pick. And then other big news is the Dolphins, with the injuries they have, I don't understand why they did this, but they traded Jalen Ramsey away.
I think that's to help their locker room.
You think so?
From reports I've heard, he's kind of a cancer in the locker room.
Now they do get Minka Fitzpatrick from Steelers, so I mean, I guess if you're trying to get rid of a cancer, cut it out and get rid of it. I guess that's what you need to do. So, um,
And, the same thing's been happening with Gardner. Where basically every team he's been on, where he destroys the locker room
yeah,
and you got to get him out.
Yeah.
That's across every professional football league,
Hmm.
um, or every professional league. Even you don't really see it in the NBA as much.
Right.
Um, just without them having cap space, they're going to go get superstars, and we don't
Oh,
care
yeah.
if you get along. You just better play
Yeah,
good on the
just need to
court.
play and produce on the field. Yeah.
Um, but you see it in MLB where reports are coming out now where Trevor Bowers was just a cancer to a locker room.
Right.
He gets cleared of all charges, and the MLB still doesn't want him back.
Yeah. So Minnesota has reached out to Carolina about possibly trading for Adam Thielen, who's in the last year of his contract over there in Minnesota. Eagles wide receiver Johnny Wilson is out with a season-ending knee injury. Steelers rookie defensive tackle Derek Harmon is out with an MCL sprain for 2 to 6 weeks. And then we said this earlier, Buccaneers activate wide receiver Chris Godwin. Should start practicing during week 2. That's good for Baker down there. So that's about all the news. What's going on in the NFL? I know we got they had a couple of preseason games last night. Well, this is last week of preseason or is it next week?
So this week is the last week of preseason. Season will start September 4th with Eagles and Cowboys.
Go Eagles.
Always hate the Cowboys right now. I don't hate the Cowboys. I hate Jerry Jones.
Yeah, I think it's the leadership, not necessarily the team. So let me ask you a quick question. How do you think Dak does this year?
I hope he does poorly.
You think?
Do you want to know what I hope or what I think?
No. What do you think? What do you think? Do you think?
I don't think he's the franchise QB that people made him out to be.
Right.
I just, with all the talent that's around now, I think this past draft was the year to go get a QB.
Mm-hmm. And
if you wanted to attempt to get a franchise QB.
Right.
The wide receiver class coming up in this year's draft and the QB class, I think, will be really good. So I look for, if Dak is not performing this year, for the Cowboys to go get a QB in the draft.
So do you
knowing Jerry Jones, he's going to pick bottom of the barrel out of like San Diego State QB. Oh, this is our next franchise QB.
do you think Dak stays at Dallas after this year?
I don't think any other team would pick him up. I don't think he's one of those QBs that can come in and change a franchise like you would expect.
Mm-hmm.
I know the Steelers are probably going to be looking for a QB next year. I'm sure the Jets will be back in the hunt for a QB.
Right.
I think my biggest question this year is the quarterback play of Trevor Lawrence over there in Jacksonville. I think they still have a lot of work to do. I saw where they named Travis Hunter wide receiver 3 and CB4.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, I don't think he was worth the draft picks that you gave.
Well,
the more the season progresses,
yeah,
we will see how good that trade worked out for both teams.
Yeah.
But I think right now the Browns have the leg up for that draft trade.
Yeah, and I think with Jacksonville, I think the question again with Jacksonville this year is going to be the offensive line. Can they stay healthy? And can they stay healthy enough to keep Trevor Lawrence healthy enough? Can Travis Etienne Jr. stay healthy? Because I mean he's been injury prone these last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since he got drafted, he's been battling injuries. I don't think he's had a 1,000-yard season yet in the NFL. And they got Tank Bigsby behind him, who came from Auburn, who was a hell of a running back at Auburn. And I think that if between them sharing the load, if both of them can stay healthy, and you keep Trevor healthy, and then you keep the offensive line healthy, I think Jacksonville can make a run to win the division, maybe get a wild card slot, if not winning the division. But if they're battling injuries all year, that's going to be good for them this year. And I do think that after this year, if Trevor doesn't have the success that he's wanting to have, you could probably see something going on down in Jacksonville where he's probably getting traded out or something like that.
It's time to go get a QB.
So,
I'm excited to see what goes on in the NFL this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super excited to see the college football that we have on today.
Yes.
As always, thanks for coming and hanging out with us on Beyond the Game podcast. If this episode helped you in any way, make sure you go give us a follow and a share on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram now.
Yes, Instagram. We do have an Instagram.
So we will be linking all those social medias in the caption of this post on YouTube. Go give us a follow, share it with your friends, family. We had pretty good viewership on our first podcast, so hopefully we can keep that rolling. This isn't for monetization, especially just two casual guys talking about football and sports.
Yeah.
I'm having fun with it. I know Terry's having fun with it. An excuse to get away for an hour, hour and a half.
Yeah, and if anybody has any comments, concerns, or anything they would like us to talk about, feel free to email us at beyondthegamepodcast6@gmail.com. We check that periodically. Send us anything that you would like to see us talk about. We'll do our research. We'll talk about it. We'll mention you on the show. Again, that's beyondthegamepodcast6@gmail.com.
You ready to go watch some college football?
Let's go watch some college football.
We'll see you next week.
All right.